And we're live. What is going on, everybody? Welcome into the live stream. We got a nice four-gamer on the slate tonight. Bunch of injury news coming in. I've got my little alert on my phone set up here, and they're rolling in, guys. We already had a bunch of news as is. Should be lots of value on this slate. Should be a fun one, so excited to get into the breakdown, giving you guys the top plays on DraftKings and FanDuel for this slate tonight. And we're going to go game by game, talk about all that injury news. We've got the Underdog NBA pulled up here on Twitter. So should be able to stay up to date with all that fun stuff. And yeah, guys, I mean, so far, Lauri Markkanen expected to miss a few games. We got that confirmation. We got Kemba Walker just ruled in. Mitchell Robinson still a game time decision. So lots of things going to be up in the air. There is a little bit of a space between the times that these games start tonight. So we'll have to talk about that. Some game theory, leaving some flexibility in your lineups, all that stuff. There will be some decisions to be made. So we'll get into it. As always, if you have any questions, please do ask them in the chat. I will gladly get to them. Going to start over on DraftKings first, break that down, then we will switch over to FanDuel. If you enjoy this content, you enjoy the stream, hit that like button. Would be greatly appreciated, guys. And let's talk about it. New York Knicks taking on the Cleveland Cavaliers. First game on the slate. Big piece of news. We just got Kemba Walker is in, so we know that. He's going to probably, take up some minutes and definitely cut into the usage of some other guys we were seeing get a bump up, like an Evan Fournier, RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, etc. Mitchell Robinson's a big piece of news. If he is indeed ruled out, we're going to be looking to a lot of Nerlens Noel possibly. This game is the worst game environment on the slate by a pretty wide margin, though. Only a 203 over-under, so not exactly ideal from a pace aspect. So really going to be relying on those injuries to be opening up some more usage for us. Biggest piece of news on the Cleveland side is with Jared Allen being listed as questionable. If he is indeed ruled out, Kevin Love, who already kind of grades out as a decent play for me overall, would become an absolute smash play at his price tag. Would become a guy that we're really going to be looking to. So the Jared Allen news, certainly going to be a big piece of news that we need to be keeping our eye on leading up into a lock. This game is at 7 p.m. Eastern time. It's the first game on the slate, so we should have that injury news before lock. Luckily, that is the one positive thing to take out of this. But as far as the expected news, we really don't know. It was kind of a late add to the injury news. Evan Mobley, Kevin Love are the biggest beneficiaries there. We already know that Lauri Markkanen has been ruled out. So there are going to be a couple other guys that we could be taking a look to on the Cleveland Cavaliers on DraftKings. Only 3-3 is Cedi Osman, putting up 0.85 DK points per minute on the season. So Cedi certainly going to be making a lot of sense as a value play on this slate tonight. If you want to be going there, definitely don't hate it. Going to be a lot of other value plays we're going to be talking about as we go along here, though. I will admit it. So picking and choosing your value plays, I think, is going to be a very, very strong part of having success on this slate. And a Utah Jazz team that could possibly be depleted, we are waiting on some even more news. So that's the last game on the slate. We'll talk about that when we get there. But right now, overall, on this game, really not too interested in targeting it overall. Like I said, it's the slowest game environment for me. Kevin Love is really the biggest piece that I'm really interested in here, especially if there's no Jared Allen. I think he kind of grades out as already a decent play. When looking at the New York Knicks front court, with the big front court of a guy like a Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson, Nerlens Noel off the bench, Taj Gibson off the bench. There's chances that Kevin Love might see that minutes tick up from like a 23 to like a 28 in this one. And if he does, that's a very big thing when it comes to Kevin Love. Because he is a phenomenal fantasy point producer, putting up 1.3 DK points per minute on the season. That is really, really good stuff. Elite per minute usage. So Kevin Love is a guy that's certainly standing out to me right now, and especially if there's no Jared Allen, he's just going to become a must-play in your fantasy lineups tonight. Biggest piece of news in this Cleveland game. So other than that, on the Knicks side, honestly, with Kemba Walker being back, that becomes a lot less interesting for me. They're just going to be really cutting into each other's usage when already a team that was kind of not too appealing to be targeting. They play at like one of the slowest paces in the league. For me, it just becomes an even easier spot to really not want to be getting exposure to. Not to mention, this is the earliest game on the slate. If you lock in a bunch of guys in the 7 o'clock game, you won't really have the late swap flexibility for the 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock games where we have guys like Nikola Vucevic listed as questionable, guys like Karis LeVert, guys like Bojan Bogdanovic, Joe Ingles, Royce O'Neal, etc. You get the point. I think we're going to be wanting to kind of go light on this game. That would be my advice for you, to allow you some flexibility for some late swap in your lineups. That's going to be my approach, really. It's going to be Evan Mobley, Kevin Love if there's no Jared Allen. Other than that, not too intrigued. Paying up for Darius Garland, I guess you could go there at 9-3 with all the value that we're going to have and all the usage that's going to flow through him for Cleveland. So I don't hate that, but once again, Really slow-paced game. I'd much rather be targeting the paper options in these other games that we're going to talk about here. So this next game, Chicago taking on Oklahoma City. Speaking of targeting guys, so big pieces of news here. Nikola Vucevic and Zach LaVine are listed as questionable. Obviously, very big pieces of news. First of all, we don't really know if Zach LaVine's going to be listed as limited in this one. I tend to think if he does come back in this game, he's going to be a full go. They've been holding him out. If he returns, I tend to think that means he's just good to go. I don't think they're going to be trying to rush their superstar player back if he's not a full go here. So that's going to be my approach to him. And then as far as the other guys in this game, DeMar DeRozan really becomes a phenomenal play if both Vucevic and Zach LaVine are out. Really going to be liking DeMar DeRozan, obviously. All the usage would be flowing through him. He would become one of the most obvious plays on the slate. Not that he already isn't a good play, but if those guys are ruled out, it just becomes a really good play here. So DeMar DeRozan would be a guy that I'm certainly wanting to load up on. Regardless, still like him, but especially if one or both of those guys are out, really going to like him. And then running it back on the other side of this game, Kobe White would become a much better play as well on the Bulls side. We could also see maybe a Tony Bradley step into the starting lineup if there's no Nikola Vucevic. So a lot of moving pieces here. It's kind of tough to be breaking down until we get that confirmation on that news. But overall, obviously, the more guys are out, the bigger bump up. We are expecting Javonte Green to be sliding into that starting rotation now for these Chicago Bulls, which is obviously, pretty relevant. He's listed as questionable if he does indeed step in. Obviously going to be another piece of value. He's minimum salary. I mean, if he's starting in this lineup at minimum salary, it's not going to take too much for him to surpass his price tag. So Javonte Green, another guy that I would be looking to. Oklahoma City, I talked about it, but it's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. It's Josh Giddey. Really, those are the two guys. And then Lou Dort would be my third option. Other than that, you could take a shot on a Darius Bazley, a Robinson Earl, but honestly, with all these other options opening up in these later games, I don't really think it's worth it. I think there's going to be some much more appealing spots that you could be visiting on this slate tonight. So once again, I'm going to be kind of going light on these first couple games, really giving myself some flexibility for late swap if you want my advice here, because we have a bunch of really good spots in these last two games. So Indiana taking on the New Orleans Pelicans. This game comes in with a 216 over-under. It's a 3.5-point spread in favor of the New Orleans Pelicans. Sir Dwayne Moody says, hit that like button. Who's the lock of the night? Appreciate you. Thank you for the support. And we're going to talk about it right now, man. My lock of the night is Mr. Jonas Valanciunas. So center position is absolutely loaded tonight, but there is no Brandon Ingram for the New Orleans Pelicans. What does that mean? That means that Jonas Valanciunas, who is already one of the top usage guys on his team, is going to get an even bigger bump up in usage. Really like him on DraftKings, really like him on FanDuel, especially on FanDuel where they have him priced even cheaper than they do on DraftKings. But this guy's going to turn into just an absolute usage monster with there being no Brandon Ingram. And for that reason, going to grade out as a phenomenal play for me. Now, since that morning lock of the night, I will say there has been some other spots that I've opened up for some usage at the center position with a Hassan Whiteside really grading out as a great play now. There's no Rudy Gobert. He's working his way back from conditioning, expected to be a full go tonight. So definitely some things have changed since I made my morning video, but certainly still really like a Jonas Valanciunas, still grading out as a really good play for me. And with all the Utah Jazz value that we're expected to have in that last game that we'll talk about, I think fitting Jonas Valanciunas into your lineup should be relatively easy. So kind of checking all the boxes for me here on the slate tonight, and for that reason, he will certainly be a phenomenal play. He's my lock of the night. Love the play. And on the other side, hopefully a Caris LeVert does return in this game. I'm expecting that he does. If he does, he's going to be a phenomenal, really high usage guy with a big ceiling and a guy that I'm going to want to be getting a lot of exposure to. We know there's no Malcolm Brogdon. We know there's no Miles Turner. We know there's no Domantas Sabonis. So obviously if Caris LeVert comes back, I mean, he's going to be one of the top priorities on the slate for me, hands down. This guy's, when he was healthy the last 3 games, he's put up 41, 45, 45 DraftKings points. And he gets one of the best possible matchups that you could ask for, taking on a New Orleans Pelicans squad that has not been good defensively. So I will be loading up on some Caris LeVert if he is indeed ruled in. If he's out, obviously the main candidates on the Indiana Pacers are going to become guys like a Chris Duarte, a Gogo Batazzi, Justin Holiday would get a big bump up. Torrey Craig would be taking a much harder look to. Already have some interest in those guys overall, with him expected to be in. But if those guys obviously are, or if Caris LeVert is ruled out, those guys really going to become great plays. Jeremy Lamb at 4K, certainly an intriguing play for me. And my projections right now, really good fantasy point producer, 0.94 DK points per minute on the season, only at a 4K price tag. Wouldn't mind that. Gogo Batazzi we talked about at a 6.2 price tag, putting up 1 DK point per minute. With there being no Miles Turner, with there being no Domantas Sabonis, really going to grade out as a great play, obviously. So, yeah, that's kind of where we'd be looking to on this Indiana Pacers squad. Like I said, if there is indeed a Karis LeVert ruled in, he's my top guy. One of the best plays on the slate, hands down. If he's ruled out as well, Indiana's just going to be a bunch of other really great plays. So, I mean, loading up on them regardless. But, I mean, I'm expecting that LeVert is going to be in. So, with that being said, my top two plays on the Indiana side by far are going to be, well, I'd say top three. Karis LeVert, Chris Duarte, and Goga Batadze. Those three guys are really the ones I'd be locking in on to getting the most exposure to on the Indiana side. And then on the New Orleans Pelican side, the top three guys that I would really be locking in on are Jonas Valanciunas, Josh Hart, and Devontae Graham, if he's indeed ruled in. He's listed as questionable once again. He's likely able to go is the latest report. We don't know, so there's so many moving parts to this slate. Once again, for that reason, I would highly advise that you go light on that 7 o'clock game. Leave yourself lots of late swap flexibility in these 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock games so that you can react to that injury news, because there's a lot of it tonight. And I will wrap things up by saying I do think that Herb Jones gets a pretty decent bump up as well here, with there being no Brandon Ingram, a guy that's already playing in the mid to upper 30s per game as far as his per-minute production on the season. When looking at him on a per-minute basis here on my sheets on the side screen here, we can see that he's putting up on average, well, first of all, Josh Hart at 7.4, we already talked about him, but 0.95 DK points per minute. He's going to become an even better play here. But then when I go ahead and pull up actually, I'll pull it up for you guys on my screen right here, the New Orleans Pelicans usage overall. Let's see here. For a Herb Jones, already producing at a pretty decent rate. And then you're going to take, obviously, a Brandon Ingram off the floor, who has one of the top usage rates on the team. And he is a 0.73 DK point per minute producer. So you can imagine only going to be becoming a much better play on this position. Also, if Devontae Graham's out, I mean, Jose Alvarado becomes one of the best value plays on the slate at 3.6, putting up 0.97 DK points per minute. Nickeil Alexander-Walker becomes a much better play as well at a 3.8 price tag. And we know Garrett Temple's going to get a bunch of minutes, although he's not the best fantasy point producer at a 0.70 clip. At only a 3.1 price tag with the big expected minutes boost, he's another guy you could certainly be looking to in this game. But really locking in on the main usage guys, and this one would be my biggest advice to you. Jonas Valanciunas, Josh Hart, Devontae Graham on the Pelican side if he's in, and then loading up on some Batadze, Chris Duarte, and Jonas Valanciunas. Because the last game on the slate, the nightcap game on the slate, Utah taking on Phoenix. Utah is looking like it is not going to have a lot of guys in tonight. So it's going to be a ton of value to go around. And the same can be said on the Phoenix side. They're dealing with no Campaign, no Jay Crowder in this one. That's going to be opening up some more minutes. We already know Abdel Nader, Dario Saric continue to be out. And there's no Frank Kaminsky continuing to be out as well. So this is a game where we're going to be loading up. Cam Johnson certainly stands out as a much better play with there being no Jay Crowder. He's the first guy that's going to jump to the top of my list as far as getting the biggest bump here at a 3.9 price tag. Really going to be grading out as a phenomenal value play for me in my projections here, putting up 0.86 DK points per minute on the season. Got him projected to play in the 30s in minutes now. That's a big, big deal. So he's going to become one of the best value plays on the slate. And also we'll be taking a much harder look to a Mikal Bridges, who traditionally is a guy that kind of takes a back seat for the usage on this Phoenix Suns side, but you're taking away Jay Crowder out of the equation. You're taking away some other guys that are getting a lot of minutes typically, like a Campaign. I mean, Campaign doesn't play the most amount of minutes, but we're talking about a solid 20 or so minutes in the rotation. And Mikal Bridges is a guy that traditionally plays in the mid-30s to upper 30s minutes as is going to be a guy that's continuing to play big minutes and is continuing to get big usage. So, to answer your question, Sir Dwayne Mooney, any love for Cam Johnson on DK? Absolutely. He's one of the best value plays on the slate for me. And I'm going to be having a lot of love in this game overall for usage, I think, because we were already dealing with no Rudy Gobert, no Donovan Mitchell, no Mike Conley on the Utah side. And now we're getting some confirmation that Bojan Bogdanovic is listed as questionable and Joe Ingles is listed as questionable. Bojan Bogdanovic was removed from that last game with a right knee bruise, so I tend to think he's out. Already. I mean, the guy came out of the game the last time out, didn't finish it down the stretch, so that's not really a good sign for him to return in this one, so I'm assuming he's out. The other guy is Royce O'Neal and Joe Ingles. They're both listed as questionable, so I mean, you got to kind of be taking a little bit of guesses here, especially if you don't get the news before 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern time for the second set of games. Unfortunately, we won't know, but I do think regardless, I mean, loading up on some guard value, we're expecting that the Utah Jazz are going to have to start either a Trent Forrest, Jordan Clarkson, or Jared Butler. And I think regardless, we see a lot more usage going around for Trent Forrest, Rudy Gay, Jordan Clarkson, Jared Butler. And then, there's a strong possibility there's no Joe Ingles and Bogdanovich and or Royce O'Neal. So, you could be taking a look to a Trent Forrest, Eric Pascal, Daniel House Jr., just pulling up these guys on a permanent basis on the season as far as their permanent production and figuring out the top fantasy point producers on the Utah side. You can see Daniel House putting up 0.73 DK points per minute over a 300-minute sample size. Jared Butler, 0.96 DK points per minute over a 113-minute sample size. So that's really, really solid. Trent Forrest, not the best fantasy point producer, but he should be running out there for a lot of minutes with no Mike Conley and possibly, no Joe Ingles, Bogdanovich. Even though he's not the best fantasy point producer, with just the pure minutes alone will be enough to get him there at a minimum salary. So, this Utah team I think is really going to be providing us with a lot of value. One guy I think we can lock in no matter what is going to be Rudy Gay here at a 4.2 price tag, 0.96 DK points per minute. Really cheap price tag. I am going to like him. Self, welcome in. How you doing, man? I see that you're asking about, what do you think about Bismack Biyombo if Ayton is out and he's not facing Gobert? Yeah, I think Bismack Biyombo is a decent tournament play. He's certainly getting a lot more minutes than JaVale McGee off the bench, and I don't know if people have picked up on that yet. I would hope they do, even though Bismack's not starting. He's getting more minutes, 25, 28, 30 minutes the last few times out, so I don't hate it. The biggest thing is just we know that Hassan Whiteside is going to get the start here now with there being no Rudy Gobert. He's been working his way back with conditioning. I would expect that he's going to be a full go here. And when you're looking at his permanent production, Hassan Whiteside is going to be an absolute smash play. 1.23 DK points per minute. I know he puts up about the same, if not better, over there on FanDuel. So Hassan Whiteside is going to be a phenomenal play at the center position tonight. And, the more of these guys that are out, the more usage is going to go around. Jordan Clarkson and Hassan Whiteside are the two guys, no matter what this news, no matter what way this news breaks, those two guys, I'm going to be having a lot of interest in. And then we could be having a lot more interest in an Eric Pascal, a Trent Forrest, a Jared Butler, a Daniel House. This is going to be a team we're just going to want to be loading up on. So, once again, I'd recommend that you leave yourself some flexibility. I know we might not have this news before the 8 o'clock games tip off. So, if that's the case, you might have to kind of be a little bit risky with your builds, taking some shots on some of these values. Honestly, with there being no Conley, no Mitchell, no Gobert, even if Bogdanovich, Ingles, and O'Neal are ruled in or something like that, and you take a shot on like a Rudy Gay and an Eric Pascal, or let's say you go down to a Jared Butler or a Trent Forrest, I don't think you're going to hate it because you're going to get up to all the pay-up options regardless of what happens. These guys are all priced at like a minimum salary, and they're going to get a lot of run if these guys are ruled out. And even if they're not ruled out, with the amount of guys that are ruled out as is, they're still going to get enough run to where they could certainly get you there at minimum salaries. So Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell, Mike Conley, they got to play someone as far as those backup minutes are concerned, and there's a lot of upside to be had. And then you factor in that's an 11-point spread in favor of Phoenix, and it's expected to be a blowout. Even if these guys do play, like a Joe Ingles, a Bogdanovich, or Royce O'Neal, etc., there's a strong chance that gets blown out of the building, and then in garbage time, these guys that are off the bench can rack up some garbage time. So I think it makes a lot of sense to be just loading up on this Utah value, paying up for all the pay-up options on the slate that we've talked about, like a DeMar DeRozan, like a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, like a Karis LeVert, like a Jonas Valanciunas, like an Evan Mobley, especially if there's no Jared Allen, Julius Randle, Devin Booker, Darius Garland. I would be limiting my exposure to either Devin Booker or Chris Paul in this game, most likely, if you're anticipating that's going to be a blowout. I just don't think they both get there. I do prefer Chris Paul just because of the discount you get on him. He's only 8.6. Devin Booker's 9.4. I just think in the blowout, there's a far more likelihood that Chris Paul can put up a ceiling game at his price tag in comparison to Devin Booker's price tag. So something to be thinking of, kind of taking into consideration. And that's my overall thought process on this slate overall. I know we talked about DraftKings. We're going to be talking about FanDuel as well here, so stay tuned. If you have any questions about DraftKings or FanDuel in the chat, please do ask it. I'll ask it. I will gladly answer. And if you're enjoying this stream, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future content that I upload. You don't miss when I go live. Do greatly appreciate it, guys. It's 2 seconds. It's free, and you would not believe how much hitting that like button helps the channel content creator. So I really do appreciate it if you hit that. And let's talk about some FanDuel. Before we do, though, quick reminder, the sponsor of the program is SuperDraft. If you have not checked out SuperDraft Pro, guys, you got to check them out. Use that link down below in the description. I'm going to be putting it in the chat. SuperDraft Pro, you can access free exclusive contests. The only way you can get access to these free exclusive contests is by using my link, and you can make some money back really quick. There are no sharks that are entering 150 lineups over there. It's a different type of format. If you're getting eaten alive on these big sites like DraftKings FanDuel, I think this is a great alternative for you. And not only are they offering these great super passes where you get access to these exclusive games, you can win trips to Vegas. I was in the running for a trip to the Pro Bowl and a 2-night stay at Vegas last night. I was in 3rd place. I had Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce left in that game. And then, of course, Gabriel Davis just went off and I got kind of kicking out. But you can sign up here, free and fun, basic, premium, elite pass. If you're a really good DFS player, I would recommend you get the elite pass. You're going to get a lot of bang for your buck if you go ahead and do that. If you're more of a begin player, select the level that you're on. But once you do, you can hit that submit button. You'll see referred by me. Sign up as a coach or a player. Becoming a player will give you access to all these free exclusive contests. Becoming a coach will allow you to start your own home-based business. You can get your own referral link, similar to what you probably see YouTubers do all the time. You know, these big DFS websites, these independent content creators where they say sign up using my link, they get a commission. You see in all my videos, I have a paid advertising disclaimer. I do get paid on this, but SuperDraft is offering an opportunity for anyone that gets referred by another coach to start their own home-based business and get paid and make your own commission. So if you're interested, check it out. Sign up as a coach using my link. You will get your own referral link after you sign up through me. And you can start referring people yourself, making commissions. If you have any questions, you can go to the About page on my YouTube page, email me, DM me on Twitter, all that fun stuff. I'm here to help. And yeah, guys, check out the sponsor of the program. Another way of supporting my content. Do greatly appreciate it. And let's talk about some FanDuel. Let's talk about some FanDuel. So if you're just tuning in, Colin, how you doing? Welcome into the live stream. We fading the first game for DK. Yeah, so I talked about that, man. I think it's kind of the same on both websites. The biggest piece of news for me in that first game is the Jared Allen news. And if Jared Allen is out, I think Evan Mobley and Kevin Love become really, really good plays. But other than that, not too intrigued to be targeting this first game. So for me overall, I do think that's going to be my approach. I'm going to be going light on the first game, most notably loading up on some Kevin Love and some Evan Mobley if there is no Jared Allen in this one who's listed as questionable. Then just loading up on the rest of the slate, waiting on the injury news, loading up on some Utah value. I know you tuned in late, but we're going to kind of review some stuff on FanDuel right now. We talked about DraftKings. If you have any questions, I'll gladly run it back for you, so no problem. I got you. So let's talk about it on FanDuel. We already kind of talked about the slate overall from a game theory aspect, but let's break it down based on some pricing discrepancies, all that fun stuff. The first thing that I'll start off with saying is that Hassan Whiteside, once again, talked about him being one of the best value plays on the slate. He's only 5-1, putting up on the season 1.27 FanDuel points per minute. I've got him projected to play in the upper 20s minutes right now. With there being no Rudy Gobert, been working his way back, going through some conditioning, getting up to full speed. I think he should be a full go here, and he's going to be an absolute smash play. The last time we saw him play, he played 33 minutes. He put up 53 FanDuel points. I think this is, once again, a tremendous spot to be jumping on some Hassan Whiteside. And we just got news that Mitchell Robinson is out. So, fantastic. Guess what just opened up? Another value play. Nerlens Noel at the center position is now going to be a thing. So, there's no Mitchell Robinson in this game. Nerlens Noel just became a value play. As if we didn't have enough value in this slate, Nerlens Noel, going to be another guy you can be looking to. So, on a site like FanDuel, Nerlens Noel, he's all the way down to 4-3. He is listed as a game-time decision with a knee injury, but he is more so probable. So, I'd expect him to be a full go here. Pretty good fantasy point producer. Last time, 26 minutes, he put up 27 FanDuel points. Now there's no Mitchell Robinson. I think that's a big bump up to a Julius Randle and a Nerlens Noel from a rebounding aspect. The only thing is, once again, this game is the slowest paced, worst fantasy point environment on the slate. Only comes in with a 203 over-under, so for that reason, I'm really not wanting to get too much exposure here. But might have to now. I mean, Nerlens Noel is going to get the start. He's really cheap. On a site like FanDuel, you only get one center play, though, so it's really important that you nail that center position. It's going to come, on a site like FanDuel, it's going to come down to priorities as far as your pay-up options. So, who are your top pay-up options? Well, DeMar DeRozan's certainly the top pay-up option, especially if there's no Nikola Vucevic and or Zach LaVine. So, DeMar DeRozan's just almost like a lock over here. You got to be getting him in your lineups just because of positional scarcity. Karis LeVert, if he returns on the Indiana Pacers, really going to like him at a 7.9 price tag. He's going to dominate all the usage. Same can be said for Chris Duarte at 6.7. Josh Hart at 6.5, priced much more friendly over here on FanDuel. And we know that there is no Brandon Ingram in this one. So once again, a fantastic play over here on FanDuel. Certainly love him. Mikal Bridges at 6.1, notorious for getting lots of steals, which is really big on a site like FanDuel where you get 3 points per steal. One of his biggest games recently, 42 FanDuel points. He had 4 steals. Last time out, he only had 1 steal. Still put up 39 FanDuel points, and we know that there is no Jay Crowder in that one. So that's obviously going to really bump up his minutes. No DeAndre Ayton. Really going to like that. So that is certainly something worth noting. DeAndre Ayton, as far as the latest update on him, he is a game-time decision. He's doubtful, though. So don't expect him to be able to go. So Mikal Bridges, still going to be liking him. Quite a bit here. A lot of minutes to be played on a site like FanDuel. Makes a lot of sense. Cameron Johnson at 5K. We talked about him with there being no Jay Crowder getting a big bump up here. So FanDuel is going to be a site where I'm just wanting to load up on these guys that are going to get me raw points. It's only a 4-game slate. I mean, Chris Paul, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at 10-3, 10-2. They priced these guys way up. I tend to think it's because they had an anticipation that these values were going to be popping because they released their salaries a little bit later than DraftKings. For me, getting these guys in your lineup, even though they're priced way up, really isn't going to be that hard, to be honest with you. We have so much value in that Utah game we talked about, possibly even more value opening up. There's no Mitchell, there's no Conley. Jordan Clarkson at a 5.6 price tag, going to be a very, very good play for the Utah Jazz that I'm certainly wanting to get exposure to. Joe Ingles possibly not going to play, which would open up more minutes for Jared Butler or Trent Forrest, both of which are minimum salary on FanDuel at these shooting guard positions. So obviously they become really good value plays. Rudy Gay at a 4.1 price tag is someone that I think is a phenomenal play regardless of the news here. Obviously, the more guys that are rolled out, the better for Rudy Gay, but I think that you don't even have to sweat it with him. He's the one that I'd be least worried about. If for some reason Rudy Gay's ruled out as well, we can just pivot to some of those other guys. But yeah, I mean, Utah is just going to be really good value. Eric Pascal at 4.4. At the center position, we talked about Hassan Whiteside. So Chicago, possibly no Nikola Vucevic. That can open up a minimum salary Tony Bradley play on the Chicago side of things, who's a really good fantasy point producer on a site like FanDuel, pulling up the Chicago Bulls per minute production on the season. Let's go ahead and see what he's putting up here. Or actually, I'm on DraftKings tab. Let's pull up some FanDuel. Chicago. Let's see, on a permanent basis, for Mr. Tony Bradley, he's putting up 0.95 FanDuel points per minute at a minimum salary. So, once again, really, really good play. This slate, guys, man, you guys, it's just, there's so much value. I mean, paying up, I would just really recommend just loading up on these pay-up options. DeMar DeRozan, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Darius Garland. He's kind of in a slower pace game. Like I said, I really do prefer Karis LeVert at 7.9 if he's indeed in. Those games both starting at different times, unfortunately. So Darius Garland does start earlier in the day, or earlier in the night, I will say. But there's just so much value. Like, I'm going to be loading up on this Utah Jazz value. We're still waiting on some more news with that Chicago side. That can open up even more value. Going light and just being light on exposure to that first game, I think is really the way to go, guys. You're going to need some flexibility. Like, I know there's some decent value plays in that first game, but it's a 203 over-under. It's the worst fantasy point environment on the slate. The only spot that I'm really seeing of any sort of value is if there is indeed no Jared Allen. I think Evan Mobley and Kevin Love become really, really good plays, specifically Kevin Love. I mean, I would have no issues. If there's no Jared Allen, I would have no issues just playing Kevin Love, saving the rest of my lineup, and just pivoting to all the news that comes out after this game. I really don't think that'd be a bad value. You can load up on some Evan Mobley as well. On a site like FanDuel, honestly, the power forward position is so weak. I mean, it might make sense to just go ahead and play Evan Mobley and Kevin Love, but I say it's weak. And, I mean, there's guys that are getting bumps up here. Mikal Bridges, there's no Jay Crowder at 6'1". He's going to play a ton of minutes. It really makes a lot of sense to be playing him on a site like FanDuel, so I don't hate that. Herbert Jones at 5'9" is a guy. There's no Brandon Ingram. He's going to get a big bump up and is playing a lot of minutes. So it's like, is it even necessary to pay up at the position? Not necessarily. Julius Randle's been pretty bad at 8'6". Could he go out there and drop 50, 60 and make you really regret not playing him? Yes, but in the slowest game environment, he's just really not been that impressive. So I just don't feel like you're missing out on that much in that first game. I think loading up on some of these pay-up options in the second games, Karis LeVert, DeMar DeRozan, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Devin Booker, DeMar DeRozan, Karis LeVert, Zach LaVine if he's ruled in. At the point guard position, we have Chris Paul, Shai Gilgeous, Kobe White, Jordan Clarkson. Like, now with Kemba Walker back, it's just making the Knicks plays even less appealing. So for me, I'm just going to kind of take some stock in saving up some flexibility for me, being able to load up on these pay-up options. If Zach LaVine's in, you might be getting him lower owned than you should be if people are loading up on this first game. If a Nikola Vucevic is in, you might be getting him lower owned than you should be if people are loading up on this first game. So all of that fun stuff. And yeah, guys, that's kind of where I'm looking to. So that's the overall game-by-game breakdown portion of this stream. Really want to be digging into some questions now, answering some questions for you on the stream. So I'm going to be getting to the live chat, answering all the questions that you guys have. Before we do, just want to remind you guys that I do offer a premium content package, and I want to give a shout out to my current premium content package members. I really do appreciate all the support, guys. So I've been working to kind of give you guys more recognition, because without the support from you guys, this channel would really be nothing. So I really do greatly appreciate it. For those of you that haven't joined the team, you can head on over here to patreon.com/KJK_DFS. You get NBA projections, NBA data sheet, player stats, team stats, play context stats, and my core plays at a very friendly price tag of only $19.99. I've been doing some market research on some of these other DFS websites to see what they're charging now. They're all like $50, $60 a month, just really getting expensive. You can get all the projections, all the stuff that they offer for only a $19.99 price tag with my package. So I would highly encourage you to check it out if you're playing every night. That's linked below in the description. And once again, want to put the names up of the current premium content members. Really do appreciate you guys. So I'm going to be leaving this on the stream, up on the screen. Thank you to everyone supporting so far. And if you haven't hit that like button so far on the stream, I don't know what you're doing. Hit that like button. Do greatly appreciate it. And let's answer some questions. Let's check out what's going on here. We got Dean Wade starting for the Cavs. Yeah, I think it's a decent value play, but once again, I think there's some better value plays later on in the slate with the Utah side of things. Chetty Osman is a huge slump. I bet they give Wade more run, although he does suck. Yeah, I mean, both those guys kind of suck from a fantasy point per minute production. So once again, I'm going to be going light on them. They do grade out as pretty decent value plays, but for me, I'd much rather take some risks on some Indiana guys possibly being ruled out, some Utah Jazz guys possibly being ruled out. So for me, I mean, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go to a terrible Cleveland Cavaliers team and the worst fantasy point per minute environment on the slate with only a 203 over-under. Could they have big games? Yes, of course they could have big games. They grade out as decent value plays. If you want to go there, go for it. For me, like I said, really the biggest priority for me is going to be Kevin Love if indeed there's no Jared Allen on this slate. I just don't think it's worth loading up on that first game. Why would I want to do that when there's so much more news to be had? There's so much more flexibility available in my lineup if I don't go to that first game. Just doesn't make sense from a game theory aspect for me to be going to it, so that's going to be my approach. Kevin Love and Mobley from That's It from Cavs. Yes, Jesse, I agree with that pretty much. Garland looks intriguing if Rondo sits. Yeah, you could go to a Darius Garland. I just think there's some other pay-up options in the later games and better fantasy point environments. So for me, I might be going light on Garland. That could be a mistake, though. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't hate on getting some Garland exposure. If you want to go with that, don't hate it. Jesse Rodriguez. Read it on NBC Sports Edge say. I like this game. Garland, Mobley, Barrett, and Randall. Yeah, if you want to go there, I mean, those are certainly some of the top usage guys for sure. I do think that Randall's going to get a slight bump up in rebounding upside with there being no Mitchell Robinson, but the fact of the matter is they're probably just going to slide a Nerlens Noel and Taj Gibson next to him for a lot of minutes, and it's still a really, really slow-paced game. So, Julius Randle's just been bad, man. Julius Randle has been bad. Like, the thing is on these short game slates, like especially on a site like FanDuel at the power forward position, just because the position's usually typically like not that loaded, just the ownership on Julius Randle at 8.6 has been getting really, really high. And at best, he's been producing like 35 to 40 FanDuel points. And we have other guys in the lower range that can put up that same production. Like the same can be said on DraftKings, like Evan Mobley at 6'9", Kevin Love if there's no Jared Allen, but also like Mikal Bridges and Herbert Jones. They're getting both bumps up. There's no Brandon Ingram. There's no Jay Crowder. I kind of feel like just playing those guys. They're still locked into a ton of minutes. They don't produce as high of a rate as Julius Randle, but they're in a better game environment, and Julius Randle's just been terrible. And then not to mention, if there is no Jared Allen, I mean, Kevin Love, Kevin Love's the play for me. It's not even close. Kevin Love just becomes the play. So that's kind of my approach there. Everyone's going to fade the first game. Yeah, I don't hate it, man. I don't hate it. If anything, that first game, I'm getting exposure to Kevin Love if there's no Jared Allen. Other than that, I mean, I don't even care if everyone fades the first game because I'm confident that I'm going to react to the news that comes out better than everyone else. If you're on top of your game, Chicago taking on Oklahoma City, there's no new Vucevic and Zach LaVine are listed as questionable. That's really a big piece of news. Indiana taking on the New Orleans Pelicans. We're waiting on that Karis LeVert news. We're waiting on Devontae Graham news. Utah taking on Phoenix. We're still waiting on Bogdanovich, Joe Ingles, Royce O'Neal. Like, if you're on top of your game and you know who's being affected and who's getting the biggest bump up based upon injury news, there's a really big edge to be had on the slate. If you're patient and you wait on that injury news and then you react very quickly. So that's going to be my approach. Would highly encourage you guys to do the same. Do you like Sykes today on FanDuel? No. I think that Sykes is kind of the last guy in the rotation that's really a priority for me. I mean, if there's no Karis LeVert, he certainly becomes a much better play. But if Karis LeVert's in, Kiefer Sykes at 3.9, like, that's a no for me, man. You're taking up a point guard position with a guy that's really not a good fantasy point producer on a site that's really, really important to, prioritize your positionality because you kind of got to nail your positionality on FanDuel. It's a little bit more restricted than DraftKings. So for me, I'm not going to waste the point guard position on a Kiefer Sykes when I have guys like Chris Paul, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Darius Garland, Kobe White with there possibly being no Zach LaVine. Jordan Clarkson is a phenomenal play at 5'6" with there no Mike Conley, no Donovan Mitchell. So I'm not going to be wasting that spot on a guy like a Kiefer Sykes. I just really don't think that's smart, man. You have so many better options at that point guard position. I'm not going to be locking in a Kiefer Sykes and wasting my point guard positionality on FanDuel. That's what I would be suggesting. LeVert or CP on DK, it would be LeVert by a mile if LeVert's rolled in. We don't know if LeVert's going to play, so we still have to wait on that news, but it's going to be LeVert by a mile for me. Do you like Rudy Gay and Cam Johnson on FanDuel? Yes, I do. I like both of those guys. Colin says Stars and Scrubs. Yeah, I mean, I think Stars and Scrubs is certainly the way it's going to go here. I think if you don't go Stars and Scrubs, you're at a huge disadvantage on this slate because it's only a 4-gamer. Raw scoring is really, really important. So getting those guys that are kind of, guaranteed going to get you 40, possibly 50 in your lineups, I think is really smart. The pay-up options like a Chris Paul, like a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, like a Darius Garland, like a Devin Booker, like a Karis LeVert, like a Zach LaVine if he's ruled in, like a DeMar DeRozan. Julius Randle would be my probably least favorite pay-up option. That might come back to bite me. I might still end up with Julius Randle just based purely on all the value that we have and trying to go Stars and Scrubs and maybe targeting on some news that other people aren't quite taking advantage of in that late game on Utah where we have all these guys listed as questionable and it could really open up some value. So my biggest thing is just going to be trying to get the biggest it's weird to say, but almost like trying to get a high floor of players. Typically, you're looking for ceiling in tournaments, but in a weird way on a 4-game slate, the guys with the highest ceiling are also going to have the highest floor. So raw scoring becomes pretty important. Do you like Josh Hart today on FanDuel? Yes, absolutely. I love Josh Hart. There is no Brandon Ingram, especially on FanDuel. Josh Hart's priced even cheaper than he is over there on DraftKings. So I certainly like Josh Hart a lot at a 6.5 price tag on FanDuel. And if you are a new viewer to the channel, which I know you aren't, but if you haven't heard me say it before, I just love playing Josh Hart because he'll get you rebounds, he'll get you assists, he'll get you blocks, he'll get you steals. He does it all. He's one of the best rebounding wings in the league. So you're not just relying on the scoring when it comes to a guy like Josh Hart. So for that reason, I really, really like it. Do you play single or multi-entries for tournaments? I do a lot of multi-entry. I don't really like 150 max things. I have a tendency of really sticking to my core and playing my core in a lot of multi-entry tournaments. Typically speaking, there's some players that aren't quite as sharp in those multi-entry tournaments that are just trying to win like $100,000, and if you really know what you're doing and you stick to your core and you utilize late swap, a lot of people don't. So for me, I find that there's a big edge in multi-entry tournaments. I really utilize late swap during NBA. That's like, I've just been killing it with late swap this year on NBA. It seems like people just don't late swap. So like, this is a perfect example. I've been talking about it all stream. If you're not listening, Put your headphones on and listen right now because I'm telling you how you can win money on these tournaments. Load up on these late games. Don't get too desperate to be in first place when the first game kicks off. Everyone likes seeing their name, winning all the big money in the first game. Well, what matters if you're winning money in the first game when you're not winning money after the last game? So I'm taking advantage of people loading up on that first game, people not adjusting the late news. If a guy like a Zach LaVine and a Nikola Vucevic is ruled in after lock, how many people are going to pivot to playing a Nikola Vucevic and a Zach LaVine who have been listed as questionable all day? Probably not that many people. I'll gladly be one of those people. Load up on them high usage guys, especially if there's no Zach LaVine or no Nikola Vucevic. If one or the other is loaded out, I'm going to load up on DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine if there's no Vucevic. If there's no LaVine, I'm going to load up on DeMar DeRozan and Nikola Vucevic. I might have just repeated myself, but you get what I'm saying. Whoever's in there, you're getting a huge edge on the field. Like, people are not late swapping. So the Utah side, we talked about it. You have Bojan Bogdanovic listed as questionable. You have Royce O'Neal listed as questionable. You have Joe Ingles listed as questionable. So why not just put all those guys in your lineups? If they're in, you're going to get them really low owned. And if they're out, you just load up on the Utah guys that are now way underpriced because they're taking on larger roles. So, like, typically speaking, a guy like if FanDuel could do live, salary adjustments and all those guys were ruled out, Rudy Gay would not be 4-1. Rudy Gay's price tag would go up to probably 6,500 or something like that. So you might be leaving a ton of salary on the table at the end of the night, but it doesn't matter because you're playing guys that are underpriced for their new roles. They're starting in a starting lineup. They're getting 30 plus minutes now. They typically are guys that will play 15 minutes, and you might be leaving thousands of dollars on the table, but you now have a low-owned lineup of players that have a larger role, guys that other people were afraid to play because they were listed as questionable. And let's say Zach LaVine's ruled in, right? Let's say Zach LaVine's ruled in, and you get Zach LaVine. I might be exaggerating here, but let's say you get Zach LaVine at 3% because everyone else was scared to play Zach LaVine because he was listed as questionable all day. And Zach LaVine goes out there and drops you 50 FanDuel points. You're going to just be winning all the money. So that's late swap is the biggest edge in NBA DFS right now. People do not utilize it. If you are not in a position where you can't be at your computer all night and you can't be late swapping, I would not recommend playing NBA. You're burning your money, so don't do that. If you can pay attention, be on top of your stuff, pivot to other guys, late swap, take advantage of the late news, that's how you're going to win the money. That's the most valuable piece of advice I can get you. And by the way, there's 22 people in here, only 9 likes, giving you a lot of valuable insight. If you enjoy the content, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future content that I upload. And most importantly, make sure that you allow yourself some flexibility in your lineups tonight. Be at your computer, be at your phone, and late swap because that is how you win money in NBA DFS. If you're just listening to this advice and going about your day and not changing your process and you're losing money every night, I would not recommend daily fantasy sports for you or recommend, that's the way to go, guys. So that's the most honest advice I can give you. I'm telling you, you gotta utilize late swap. If you're not utilizing late swap, get good at it. Get good at it, and by the time you've won hundreds or thousands of dollars in the last, couple weeks because you're holy, I watched KJK DFS and he told me to late swap and Zach LaVine was ruled in and I late swapped to Zach LaVine and the field I was playing in the $4 tournament and he was only 5% owned. I'm speaking into existence here for you guys, but this stuff happens, so you just got to take advantage. That's how I'm going to be approaching this slate, and I would highly recommend that you do it too. So. Do you like Forrest a guy on FanDuel? Yeah, I think Trent Forrest is, I think you're talking about Trent Forrest. I think he's a pretty decent play. I think regardless, he gets a lot of run. He's just not a very good fantasy point producer, but when you're factoring in that, he's minimum salary and he's going to get a lot of minutes here, most likely going to get the start. He put up 28 FanDuel points last time out in only 18 minutes. 4 steals, 1 block. That's probably not likely to happen again if he only plays 18 minutes, but there's no Mike Conley, there's no Donovan Mitchell, and for that reason, and then we also have a bunch of other guys listed as questionable. He could really be in a big role here, and he's minimum salary. So yes, I do like him. The only thing is positional, like going cheap at the shooting guard position with Trent Forrest and Butler and all those guys on Utah sounds fun, but the problem is we don't really have too much guys to pay up for. We have Karis LeVert, DeMar DeRozan at the other positions, Power forward, we have Julius Randle, Jared Allen, who might not even be playing. Center, we don't really have a big hip option. Nikola Vucevic is the closest option there. So, you're most likely going to be paying up at one spot on the shooting guard position and paying down at the other. Unless, like I said, if Zach LaVine gets ruled in or something like that, though, I could think you could really, really take advantage of playing him at some lower ownership. So, hopefully you've been listening along here as I'm going across this stream, because you should be getting some valuable insight here as to where I'd be looking. Booker has had some huge games in Utah. Dropped 59 real points at 29.90. He's in a bounce box too. Yeah, I don't hate it at all. Especially with all the value we have. I have no issue with you loading up on Devin Booker. It should be very easy to get him in your lineups. And like I said, I think loading up on some pay-up options and utilizing that value on a slate where raw scoring really does matter is certainly a smart strategy. Thanks for the advice, KJK. I got you, self. No problem. Brizzy says, would you still play Love if Allen is in? I'd be far less likely to do it. He still grades out as a decent play overall for me, but I think there's a lot better options if Allen's in. So, yeah, I'd be less likely to do it. I don't think it's a completely terrible play, but not nearly as good. Carlos says, do you have any video explaining DFS NBA? Yeah, if you go to my channel, I have a new video I uploaded called How to Win at NBA DFS. I go over a lot of different types of strategy, and I also talk about how you can win using my premium content tools. So I gave you a little bit of a sneak peek behind the paywall as far as what I offer for premium content tools. I talk you through how I use them. These are the same tools that I use when building my own NBA DFS lineups. So I talk you through all that stuff, how I use them, how they can help you, how they're easy to use because they're all color-coded, and you can kind of dissect which spots you should be targeting very quickly with the color-coded format. So that's the goal of my premium content tools, to make your life easy. If you want to go ahead and purchase those, they're linked down below in the description. If you just want to watch the video, it is free. Check it out on the KJK DFS YouTube channel. And it's under a certain playlist. I just added it. I think it's like How to NBA DFS or something, but you'll see it. It's on a playlist. If you scroll down, you'll see like all my different playlists, and you'll see the video How to Win at NBA DFS. John says, Biyombo or Goga on DraftKings and FanDuel Cash? I mean, you got to go with Goga. There's no Miles Turner. There's no Domantas Sabonis. His minutes are a lot more locked in than a Bismack. I think Bismack is a good tournament play. Playing him in Cash is too dicey. You got to go with Goga there in Cash. So, thoughts on Lou Dort? I think Lou Dort has a lot of tournament upside. He's a very streaky shooter, though. I compare Lou Dort to like Buddy Hield. He's very reliant on his shot, but he can get hot and hurry. And if he gets hot from behind the three-point arc on a site like a DraftKings where he's priced at only 5.2, could really pay off for you in your tournament lineups. But I'd be lying to you if I said he's a big priority for me on the slate today. There's so many other better options in the same price range, like a Jordan Clarkson on the Utah Jazz with them dealing with all those injuries. I think he's a good tournament play. I think he'll probably be low owned, but I think his likelihood of busting for you is pretty high. So that's kind of my breakdown there. I'd go Joe Val or Whiteside, John. Yeah, I like Joe Val and Whiteside a lot in Cash as well. I would agree with that, Colin. I think your head's in the right spot. Do you like Herbert Jones tonight on DK? Yes, I do. I think that with there being no Brandon Ingram, he's going to get a big bump up in usage. He's already playing a lot of minutes as is. He's been playing in the mid-30s to upper 30s minutes per game. 34, 37 the last 2 times out. You take Brandon Ingram out of the equation, should get more shot volume. Still going to get those minutes. So I think he, ironically, becomes a much higher usage player. And for that reason, I do like him a lot. For, I say a lot. I like him a lot more than I typically would. It's not like he's like my top play on the slate, but he really does look a lot better than he typically would with no Brandon Ingram. So certainly willing to get him in my lineups. And yeah, guys, yeah, we're feeling good. We got some injury news coming in. We got confirmation there is no Mitchell Robinson. Nerlens Noel is now a valued play all of a sudden. Crazy stuff going on in this slate. We got a bunch of injury news. We have more injury news coming on the Utah side. Arizona says, you liking any Kemba? Kemba's not really for me. That might come back to burn me. He could have a big game. He is priced pretty cheaply, but I don't trust the Knicks rotation. I don't really want to be targeting a game with such a low total. The Knicks have a implied total of 99 points. Like, that is not good, man. In today's NBA, if you have an implied team total, you're implied to score under 100 total team points points as a team, like, I'm just not that intrigued to be targeting you. I'm sorry. I mean, I know their price tags are decent, all that fun stuff, but I don't know. I just, like, why would I want to go there when I can go to a possible Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan in the Chicago game? I know they're priced up a little bit more, but in the Pelicans game, like, I'd much rather go to a Chris Duarte, a Josh Hart, a Goga Patadze, kind of all priced cheaper, a Karis LeVert if he's rolled in. And the thing is, if Karis LeVert's rolled out, then you just load up on all these Indiana guys that are going to start. You load up on a Chris Duarte, a Goga Patadze, a Dustin Holiday, a Torrey Craig. So there's multiple avenues to go based upon the late swap. They're much better game environments. You know, there might be a chance that a couple guys have a big game in that first game. I just don't care because I tend to think that the guys I'm targeting in the late games can match them, if not do better. So for me, if the game with a 206 over-under, with a team with a 99 implied total comes back to haunt me and Kemba Walker goes out there and drops 70, I'm just going to go, what are the chances of that? That is not very highly likely. I would be very surprised if anyone... I'd be very surprised if anyone breaks the slate in that game. Outside of a Kevin Love if there's no Jared Allen. I mean, I would really like Kevin Love if there's no Jared Allen. I've already emphasized that multiple times on this stream, but he'd be the one guy that I would certainly be really prioritizing. I mean, I think Nerlens Noel becomes a much better play now with there being no Mitchell Robinson. I'm going to have to update my projections, but let's just take a quick peek over here on the side as to what I'm kind of looking to. I'm going to have to update this for my premium content members here soon. Once I get off the stream, I'll be uploading my projections, my core plays, all that fun stuff. But for me, I mean, Hassan Whiteside still really grades out. It's a great play, obviously. We talked about him in that Utah game. And as far as anyone else, in that first game that's really popping for me in my projections, like, not really, man. Nerlens Noel looks like a lot better play, but he's still not grading out as that good. Like, I'm not playing a Nerlens Noel over a Jonas Valanciunas, who's my lock of the night, or over a Hassan Whiteside, who's become one of the best center plays now on the slate. Like, I'm loading up on those two guys. I love Jonas Valanciunas. I love Hassan Whiteside. Those would be the top guys. Cam Johnson or Dort on FanDuel. I would lean towards Cam Johnson there. Single game showdown, Jazz game. Who do you think is MVP? That's a unique question. Single game showdown, Utah taking on Phoenix. So I think is the MVP. It's a good question, my dude. Right now, I mean, we're waiting on a lot of injury news, but based on the injury news we have right now, I wouldn't mind loading up on some Jordan Clarkson. I'm not too familiar with the showdown format. I think that's like the same as like NFL showdown, right? Where your captain's a lot more expensive. You get the duplicate points for him, but his price tag gets inflated. Based upon that, I'm thinking that you're going to get a really great discount on a Jordan Clarkson with no Mitchell, no Mike Conley. You're going to have a lot of usage, and you're going to get him in your captain spot at a pretty deflated price tag for the output that you're going to get out of him tonight. So if I elaborated wrong on that format, or if I have it wrong, you can correct me, but I'm pretty sure I know what you're talking about, and I think Jordan Clarkson could be the man to go to there. And then just load up on the other pay-up options, like a Chris Paul, like a Devin Booker. Feel pretty good about your lineup. Cavs give it up to shooting guards, point guards, though. Yeah, but I just don't want to go there, man. Once again, if you want to go to those guys, I don't hate it. They're priced reasonably. Kemba Walker, 6'6", Evan Fournier, 5'7". They could certainly get there. Now you have a Cam Reddish in the equation. That's going to take away usage from them as well, though. Emmanuel Quickley's back in the rotation. You have a Quentin Grimes in the rotation. RJ Barrett and Julius Randle and Alec Burks all going to be cutting into as well. They're all priced pretty appropriately. Yeah, do you want to go there? I just think my builds are going to lead me to a lot more star scrubs, so I'm not even going to be in that price range most likely there. And if I am, it's going to be because of the Indiana Pacers, like Karis LeVert being out or something, or no Zach LaVine, so I'm loading up on Kobe White. So I just think there's going to be other options that fall in that price range that I'd much rather be prioritizing, such as a Chris Duarte on the Indiana Pacers or a Josh Hart. Chris Duarte is 6'4". There is no Malcolm Brogdon. There is no Domantas Sabonis. There is no Miles Turner. So with all those guys being out, going to be a lot of usage to be going to a Karis LeVert. Going to be a lot of usage going to a Chris Duarte. If Karis LeVert's out, even more usage of Chris Duarte. So he's kind of where I'm leaning there. Dude, DeFrozen on or book on DK. I think you got to go with DeRozan. The game's expected to stay closer. If we get confirmation that Vucevic and Zach LaVine are in, obviously DeMar DeRozan isn't going to look quite as appealing here. But overall, I just think it's really easy to get DeRozan. I think he has one of the highest. And Jared Allen's ruled out, people. We just got bing, bing, bong, bong. We got a big injury report here. Jared Allen is out. So Cavs going to start Garland, Okoro, Wade, Mobley, Davis. So Ed Davis is going to slide into the starting lineup. I think Kevin Love becomes a lot more interesting here. And Ed Davis is the minimum salary. It's a question of how many minutes are they going to get him. I mean, minimum salary, taking on the former team of the New York Knicks. I believe he had a run with the New York Knicks. I think Ed Davis has been about everywhere at this point. But for the Cleveland Cavaliers, Kevin Love, load up on him. Love some Kevin Love now. Evan Mobley becomes a much better play as well. Those would be my two favorite plays by far in that game now. And Ed Davis does put up 0.81 DK points per minute at minimum salary. I'll have to be updating my projections. If you want access to those, click on the link down below in the description to access my premium content. You'll get all that stuff. You'll get my core plays, which I'll be updating after the stream. But Kevin Love, going to be a really, really good play now. So yeah, we're gonna end this stream off with a bang, I guess. Kevin Love, I mean, what's not to love about Kevin Love now? How creative I am with my puns, huh? Evan Mobley becomes a much better play as well. Yeah, really gonna like Kevin Love, really gonna like Evan Mobley. Those two guys climbed to the top of my list in this one. And, yeah, I think it's that simple. Load up on Evan Mobley. Load up on Kevin Love. Love those plays now. If I had to pick one of them, I'd go with Kevin Love for upside at his price tag. And, yeah, guys, 6:27. I'm going to hang around here for a couple more minutes. Make sure you ask any questions that you have in the chat. We got 22 people in here, only 14 likes. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future content that I upload. If you're watching this content for free and not hitting the like button, winning money on it every single night, that is just selfish. Hit that like button. Come on, man. Sean says, Mobley going off. Yeah, man. Yeah, I like Evan Mobley. I like Kevin Love a lot. I haven't updated my projections quite yet. I'm going to hop off this stream in about 2 minutes and do so. If you haven't signed up for the premium content, check that out. Patreon.com/KJK_DFS. Rajon Rondo is listed available to play. So Rajon Rondo is in. And, yeah, a lot more interest in Kevin Love. A lot more interest in Evan Mobley. I guess you could say a lot more interest in this first game overall. Mobley double-double with Cavs to win. Placed it way earlier. That sounds like a pretty dang good wager to me, Arizona. I think you might be onto something there. Don't hate it whatsoever. Don't hate it. Don't hate it. All right, guys. I'm going to probably bounce out of here. If you haven't checked out the sponsor of the program, SuperDraft Pro, check them out, guys. I'm going to put the link in the chat right now. The only way you can get access to these exclusive free games is you can win trips to Vegas. You can win all sorts of fun stuff by checking them out. And you get all these free games. Elite, Premium, Basic. You can follow me over on Twitter at KJK_DFS. Looks like someone just followed me right now. Kareem W. If you're on this live stream and you just followed me, shout out to you. Shout out to you for the follow. I don't know if you're on here or not, but appreciate it. All right. Check out the sponsor of the program, guys. SuperDraft Pro. Wishing you all the best of luck tonight. I'm out of here. If you want to sign up for the premium content, you can do so by heading over here to patreon.com/KJK_DFS. If you sign up, I'm going to get an email. I'm going to send you a nice welcome message on the Patreon. Welcome you to the team. Thanking you for being a premium content member. And I guess I'll round things off by putting the current Patreon members up on the screen right now. Thank you to all of you. A-Dub, Adam, Anthony, Asaph, Brian, Cody, Josh, K-Ped, Michael, Mike, Patrick, Renard, Smoothie, Tap My Life, Timothy, and Tucker. Thank you for all your support, guys. Thank you to everyone that tuned into the stream. If you enjoyed, hit that like button before you head out the door. Wish you all the best of luck tonight, and we will see you in the next one. Get some Jonas Valanciunas in your lineups. Lock of the night. Love it. And I'm out of here. Good luck tonight, guys. Peace.